Hi, my name is Samuel Giles, and today I will be presenting on behalf of Back of House Intelligence. Can you think about a moment where you find yourself getting complacent, caught up in the regular flow of life and not really thinking about what can be changed? Unfortunately, this idea very much applies to business, where management finds themselves getting caught up in the regular flow of operations and not acknowledging the fact that they can always change and improve. A big area this arises is customer complaints. Many customers will complain about a certain aspect of business, and this gets neglected, and unfortunately, these problems will build up over time and impact a customer's view of the restaurant. What I think this impacts most is consistency. Even if a business is operating fairly efficiently, these small little issues can turn over and eventually very much impact the business reputation. So, what can be done about this? Again, this ties into what I mentioned previously. Customer complaints give a very precise pinpoint of what exactly is going wrong with the business. Obviously, there's also glowing reviews. Many customers leave good reviews, and this is kind of something I'll touch on later. These strong foundations that the company already excels in can be used to pivot and kind of improve the company. But particular, it can be used to kind of pinpoint the company's weaknesses, and these areas of improvement will prevent the company from getting too complacent. It's always good for management to allow themselves some time to review customer complaints using things like Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor, platforms like this. And this very much prevents management from getting too complacent. So, if you would like to discover exactly how to begin this journey, allow us a moment to introduce ourselves. We are Back of House Intelligence. We are a firm specializing in the restaurant industry. Starting out, we really had no focus. We really knew we wanted to focus in the restaurant industry specifically, but we had no idea where to start. As we began our journey, we really started to notice that many of the core issues of the restaurant industry's business in general comes from these hidden areas that are just completely easy to overlook. And we understand that. We understand it's easy to get caught up in the flow of business, as I mentioned earlier. We kind of want to help alleviate this problem. Our name comes from the fact that we very much dig deep into our customers' problems. We like to investigate and we ensure that the reports we give to our clients are very thorough. And we ensure you specifically that you will be very happy with the investigation we have done. And again, why this matters for you, we leave no rock unturned. We pride ourselves in our hands-on approach to client relationships. We will go from the very back of house of your business, talking from the wait staff to the dishwashers in the back, from the people who prep food, and try and, understand how the operation is, going just in the very small level. And we talk to the CEO, we talk to people in the very top level of the business to kind of understand how the operation is going on all levels. We will dig very deep and we will uncover exactly what is going wrong in your business. And so, a little bit about me. As I mentioned, my name is Samuel Giles. I'm a member of the accounting team. Recently, I found myself getting engaged in the more investigative approach with our clients. Previously, I was kind of more concerned about the financial information, but I did come to a key discovery. The financial aspect of businesses is very important, and oftentimes it's easy to forget about the small amount of revenue that a company has at the end of the month. My most recent project involved finding that the company had about $500 in excess revenue every month that was being underutilized. It wasn't used in any aspect. So what I did, I helped the company learn how to invest this small amount into customer training programs, which was really their biggest fault in their business. Their customer service needed improvement. So just a small amount of revenue was able to drastically overhaul the business operations. So that's kind of my focus. I kind of work on helping improve the communication between the financial team and the management themselves to understand what the revenue can be used for to improve business operations. And so, why does this matter? So, my expertise again is learning how this small amount of revenue can be used to improve the business operations. And I truly feel as this is something that every business can improve from. It allows for a clear area of improvement because oftentimes top management doesn't communicate properly with their finance staff. Kind of both fields assume that the other is operating just fine on their own when really they would benefit from talking to one another. As I mentioned, stuff like excess revenue can be used to improve operations with stuff like customer service. And really, what I found as an example is, even my own department within the School of Roy Richards College of Business could benefit from this. There's amounts of excess revenue every month that could be used to, maybe improve the student experience, stuff like the lobby or, just small stuff like that that could really go a long way in improving the reputation. And, as for your business in particular, this allows for an easy starting point where you can start to invest this little amount every month. And what this does is slowly over time, you will find drastic improvements. My client today is known as Nama Asian Fusion. They opened in February of 2018. They are located on the Adamson Square in Carrollton, Georgia. They focus on really a wide variety of Asian foods. They're known for their very atmospheric rooftop dining experience. Overall, I'm a big fan of the company. I love their food. However, again, this is tying back to what I saw earlier. Really, there is one core problem with the company, and that is inconsistency. As for their competitors, I have listed Hibachi Express, S&M 108, and Big Bear Asian Buffet. Really, the main similarity between these companies is the fact that they are all Asian restaurants located in Carrollton. Um, S&M 108 in particular is also located on the Adamson Square, so that there is a lot of direct overlap between the two. However, these companies do offer very different experiences for the most part. Hibachi Express, they're similar. They both offer Asian food, particularly hibachi. That's one that Nama also specializes in. However, hibachi is much more kind of fast food oriented. They offer a drive-through experience, focused on takeout stuff like that. S&M 108, again, they offer Asian food, but they have more of a specialty when it comes to Korean cuisines and stuff like tea in general. As for the Big Bear Asian Buffet, once again, they offer Asian food. However, the Asian buffet, their emphasis is on the buffet itself, whereas, Nama doesn't really have a buffet, but they both offer Asian food. Now getting into kind of the big strengths of Nama, they have a very great wait staff. I was reading through reviews and there are just countless praises towards the wait staff and just the staff in general. Even just the people in the back of the house are very friendly. And I saw multiple reviews where, they were shouted at specifically, like here, a customer was very happy with a waitress named Mallory. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's great that customers are, kind of happy enough with their experience with the wait staff to praise them by name, and that's very important. Another big thing that Nama has going for it is their rooftop atmosphere. This is pretty unique to them on Adamson Square. They have a rooftop dining experience that is praised for being very atmospheric, very inviting, and this is something that is very important for a business. Another good strength, this is very important for a restaurant, obviously. The food is very well praised. The food is praised for being, very delicious, pretty consistent. And, the fact that there is a wide variety of food offered is very important because it's easy for a restaurant to kind of specialize too much. And this, scares away people who want a specific thing. So the fact that Nama offers a variety from sushi, hibachi, noodles, those kind of things. It allows for a wider group of customers to be able to enjoy the experience. Now, unfortunately, there are some weaknesses with Nama. One thing is there were, a few reviews that said the food wasn't fresh. Most of the reviews very much praised the food quality. However, there were a few complaints where I think the sushi rolls in particular were said not to be fresh. I don't think this is a major issue, but it is something that, necessitates some looking at. Another issue is that the rice portions are considerably larger than the protein portions. I'll get into this later, but they unfortunately have a competitor nearby that has maybe the opposite problem where their protein sizes are much bigger. And I think this kind of ties into a value proposition issue, but I will get more into this later. And another weakness for the company is that the food can be expensive. Once again, this ties into the idea of a value proposition. While the food is generally praised, it is on the pricier side, and this can scare away some customers who are looking for maybe a cheaper meal. Another thing is that some customers have complaints about upset stomachs, and this could very much be due to sensitive stomachs rather than any underlying issue, but it still necessitates a look into. So what does this tell us exactly? Well, to start with, I think Nama has a very strong foundation. Their atmosphere and overall food quality is pretty well praised, particularly their atmosphere, and I think this is a very strong foundation. However, there are clearly areas of improvement. They need to work on consistency. While their food is very well praised, the fact that some customers complain about it not being fresh may lead to those customers not wanting to return in the future. And I think that portion sizes are another thing that need focus here. If you look at this review for a competitor, they praise the portion sizes and the overall value of it, which is something that unfortunately I don't think Nama has. So kind of taking those together, I think Nama has a very strong foundation, but there are a few areas in which I think need improvement. So, what do we at Back of House Intelligence recommend? Well, our first recommendation is to focus on the already great wait staff. I think an easy way to do this would be to promote them through social media. Again, the fact that so many customers had such a great experience with them that they were willing to shout them out through social media reviews and stuff like that means that I think promoting the wait staff through social media would give those customers kind of insight into the way they're treated through just a simple recognition post. A customer who had a good experience with them will see that, and they'll automatically think that, the company is treating them well, and that will make them more willing to return to the business in the future. All right, I have two more recommendations. The first one I think is to expand the already great atmosphere of the rooftop dining experience. While again, I mentioned earlier that is very great and unique to Nama specifically, there were a few customers saying that the wait times for the tables on the rooftop are very high during busy days. And I think this really could take away from some customers' experience. I know the internal dining aspect of the atmosphere is still very enjoyable, even if you're not on the rooftop. But I think expanding this could lead more customers to having an enjoyable experience. And I also think another opportunity recommendation I have is to promote the most popular dishes. There were many dishes I saw that got shouted out in particular, whereas some maybe weren't as favorable. So I think promoting them or possibly even offering a deal on certain days of the week for these most popular dishes would allow more customers to, try it and maybe return in the future for those same dishes. Now, as for the threats to the company, these are both things I mentioned earlier. The company very much needs to work on consistency. The food is generally very well praised, and I think that's a good thing. However, again, there were a few customers that complained about the food not being fresh, and I think this could eventually boil into a larger issue where maybe customers see Nama as overpriced and still serving unfresh food, and that would very much scare away some customers. Another thing is the portion sizes. I think the portion sizes can need some work. As I mentioned earlier, customers say there's a combination of the food being too expensive and too small. And for, especially in certain areas where customers go to dine and have kind of a cheaper experience with a good amount of food, that would scare some people away from Nama, which, unfortunately does offer more expensive dishes while not necessarily having big portion sizes. Lastly, there were again some customer complaints about stomach aches. This really varies person to person. It's hard to tell if the people saying this just had sensitive stomachs in general or if there truly is an issue. But regardless, it is very much worth investigating this issue, making sure there's no safety concerns. As you can see here, Nama has a health score of 93, which is pretty good. It needs improvement, obviously, but this is just something to keep in mind moving forward. I don't think it's a huge issue, but it is something worth investigating. And so what I've done here is I've compiled a SWOT chart to kind of summarize these key points. I think this is something very beneficial to management. It kind of breaks down, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the company. It pinpoints exactly what needs improvement and what's already great. I think this is beneficial as it lays the groundwork for where management can, what I mentioned earlier, use their excess revenue and start investing into these little issues. So, in conclusion, tracking these customer complaints is crucial to kind of improving business operations. I think today, looking at Nama Asian Fusion, they have a few areas in which they clearly need to improve in terms of consistency and portion sizes. But I think their atmosphere and overall food quality is very great. They're already positioned well against competitors who have a more kind of casual, cheaper experience. So I think Nama can build off this strong foundation and pivot themselves to be even greater than they already are. Again, they're positioned well already, but I think there's a few areas that need improvement, and they could easily expand upon their great foundation of atmosphere and food quality. And so, wrapping up, I would like to ask you to stay connected with us, even if you are no longer our client moving forward. We'd love to hear how you're doing in the future. You can contact us at backofhouseintel.com. We have our phone number listed here, and we are always happy to hear from you. And so, before you leave today, we would like to offer you your pick of any of these complimentary items listed here. We hope they serve as a reminder for your time with us, and we hope you remember us as you continue to serve great food and service to your customers.